So, I don't mind breather episodes like this. Really, I don't. But as an analyzer, as a ruminator, as someone who's, it's kind of my job to talk about this stuff, I look at a breather episode like, because I don't know what to say. It's obviously intended to be comedic, despite the fact that part of it involves torture and memory wiping. In fact, if I was to say anything analytical about this episode, it'd be two things. First of all, why does a droid spa exist? Now hear me out for a second, okay? Because a droid spa is for droids to feel better. Okay. I could see the occasional biological creature caring about their droids enough to send them to a droid spa so they feel better. You know, that whole building loyalty thing. In fact, I could see someone like Anakin sending someone like R2 to a droid spa to make this work. But at the same time, I didn't see any organics there, and it seemed really droids for droids. The only way I could see that working is if these are droids who have already undergone droid effect and are at the point now where they're already sentient and sapient and just want to feel better, which means a sufficient number of droids have gone through that process, at least on Coruscant, at least in that region of Coruscant, in order to justify the economic expense of setting up an entire business devoted towards that relatively small part of the industry, or the market base, or whatever you want to call that. Which is interesting to think about. I like to think that that's true, that there's just enough droids who have become sentient or sapient. I mean, think about it this way. How many times has someone died, on Coruscant especially, but in general in Star Wars, and their droid is just kind of left to their own devices, right? Or how many times has there been a thing where a droid is abandoned and then not properly wiped or slagged or whatever, and then, right? I mean, you got to get the idea of there being cast-off droids, deliberately and otherwise, which lead to this whole problem. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, why does Anakin not immediately get a red flag at multiple points in this episode? In all seriousness, I know. All this stuff happened in the past, and we already had, this episode happening before, back in season 1 thing. But what I want to know is why, does the Force just not care about droids? Is that how it is? At no point did he sense any of the danger, even remotely? Considering the significance of this threat and the fact that Cad Bane intended to kill all of the senators once he had what he wanted. Remember that? I remember that. Right? But no, he's just angry about the whole time, like, where are those two? They're probably off bungling again. And he sends R2-D2 after 3PO, despite the fact that it's R2 who screws up on that one. Now, that makes sense to me, because this is R2 who's still relatively young compared to the R2 we know later, and R2's the one who has the most personality at this point, right? I mean, he's the one who's been regularly ignoring not being memory wiped, and is the one who's Anakin's droid, and therefore has been raised by Anakin, who, while he has a sense of responsibility, is mostly about doing whatever. By contrast, 3PO is the one who's actually like, no, I'm actually going to get this done properly. Let's go. Although both of them could use a little bit of a lesson in negotiating, but, whatever. Another quick thought before I go here. Why, okay, so, obviously he can't sense danger. Okay, sure, the Force is weak or vague or whatever BS explanation we want to come up with. When 3PO comes back and says, I have no memory of the day's events, that should be an immediate red flag. Because he's a droid. He can literally recite his memory word for word. Why is it that he has no memory whatsoever of the day's events? Keeping in mind that R2 probably also has no memory of the day's events. You'd think that would have been like, I have no memories of it. Oh, really? What is the last thing you remember? Oh, I remember going this, but it was such and such time. And then I remember being here, and it was such and such time. Really? And then, take him off and get him scanned and be like, oh my god, his memory's been wiped. Something happened. Da-da-da-da. Something, anything other than just, oh, you're so stupid. I'm sorry for ranting so much, but illogical jumps in characterization like this aggravate the hell out of me. It's the kind of thing I see in bad kids shows as opposed to good kids shows, which I've noticed is there's a huge gulf in between those two things in the last few years as I've been taking care of my niece. Because it's basically the idiot ball at that point. You're just holding the idiot ball like, oh, well, yeah, sure, my best friend is mind-controlled and acting completely differently, and there's weird lightning coming out of her thing. I'm just going to put this off as if it's just some kind of a temper tantrum. Whatever. That's the idiot ball, and I hate that. Anyways, that's all I got. Tomorrow, or tonight, or whatever, we'll go back to the Season 3, timeline-wise, and actually see the fallout of Season 1. I love this time-skipping stuff. It's great, really. See you next time, guys.